you go.
Again, good morning. Thanks for joining us. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the office and the industrial market, and if there's time, get into a few of the other market segments. But we're going to concentrate on the industrial and the office side today. So
Kind of wrap up 22 and talk about 23 where we're going. So 22 with inflation, with interest rates that hiked every so often. There's a cloud of a recession coming. Are we going to survive? I mean, are we going to do this? Or what's your feeling?
my personal feeling is I think we're gonna be perfectly fine. I think, there's obviously a lot of unknowns, which is always the biggest concern. It's the unknown. But based on some of the information you're gonna hear today, I think we're gonna be okay. It's
22 on the industrial side ended strong.
Yeah.
Office?
Same thing with
Strong.
office. Office was strong 21 into 22, was strong, consistent, rental rates were consistent. And then going into 23, I think it's gonna be a little bit of the same. So that pretty much wraps it up, right?
Okay, we're done.
All right, Steve, if you
All right.
want to go into
All right.
the industrial side first.
All right, before I get into industrial, I just want to remind everybody that, while our team, we've got a good team of folks here in Wyomissing. We're local. We've got our hands all over the local buildings. We know all the local owners and tenants, landlords. We work nationally and internationally for our clients. We've got NAI Global, has robust resources around the world. Our SIOR, thousands of SIOR fellows around the world. And we can help our clients in any market. I mean, we've got people doing things in the Czech Republic, overseas, all the different states in our country. So keep us in mind for that. Getting into the Berks County industrial market, we're currently tracking 601 buildings in the industrial sector. Our market is now over 56 million square feet. I just want to contrast that to 38.7 million in 2015. Just a huge jump in the last couple of years. And most of this growth is attributed to the new Class A industrial buildings that you see: Hamburg, Bethel, Shoemakersville, 183, the 34 to 40 foot high. Just beautiful buildings. That's most of the growth. There was one building, really, over just 3 years ago. There were only 5 buildings over a million square feet, and all of a sudden now there's twice that many in buildings over 750,000 and 500,000. That's where the growth is coming from. The net absorption in our county was 4.9 million square feet in the last year. That's up from 4.1 million in the prior 12 months, or almost 5 million square feet. 2.45 million square feet of new deliveries occurred in the last 12 months. That's up from 1.3 million square feet prior 12 months. Talking again about how strong 2022 was. 1.7 million square feet is under construction now, which is pretty much three large buildings that are going up. While a lot of spec building has been stopped because of economic reasons, there are still 5 million square feet in planning. Half of that is the New Morgan. They're planning 3 large buildings, 3 in the 800,000 range. You've got one in Maiden Creek Township, which sounds like they're going to go to the courts to try to get their entitlements. You've got one in Kutztown, and something else up towards Bethel. So 5 million feet in planning. If they don't have a user, don't expect to see them built. But entitlements take a long time. You can spend more than 2 years to get that. So developers are looking to pre-lease those. Sales of industrial products in the county have risen above 200 million annually for the last 3 years. Most are relating to the industrial, the e-commerce fulfillment centers that we just talked about. And those when leased convert from the value of what we call the sticks and bricks value to the cash flow. So the value jumps quite a bit. So some of those buildings, although they're only a year or two old, have been sold already now that they're leased up and stabilized. Market capitalization rates for the nicest buildings have been very close to 7%, some slightly less, some slightly more. Those are for Class A properties. For buildings of a lesser quality, the rate quickly jumps up to 8%. Foreign investment accounts to roughly 12% of the capital being deployed in 2022, which is a number that we haven't seen before. A national construction materials index talks about moving forward in 23. They're looking at a 4% increase over prior year, which frankly I thought was lower. I was expecting to see a higher number than that. On the workforce side, the Berks County Workforce Development Board reports a little over 211,000 people are available to work, with just 8,600 or 4% not working. The shortage of workers drives up costs, creates staffing challenges. 4% is pretty much in line with PA and the US stats. We had 2 local closures. One last year, the Albico, the very old company that manufactured uniforms, sold and it relocated its operations to Missouri. They employed 119 in the area. CH Briggs has just given us more notice to close, and that's going to add 100 people to the available workforce. And I'm told that many of those people are already being referred to local companies, so hopefully they have a nice soft landing and gainfully employed. If you're looking for money, area banks and credit unions are flush with money and happy to work with you if you're qualified and your deal pencils out. If you're not as well qualified, don't forget about SBA. We've done deals through SBA that have had as low as 10% down, and they can help you make a good deal. Also, Greater Berks Development Fund locally, they provide the PETA loans, Pennsylvania Industrial Development Authority loans. They reset those rates every quarter. Q1 rates just came out, 4.75 for fixed up to 15 years, 7-year option at 3.75. You can also bundle equipment into that and make a deal. So if you're looking for some options, call Deb Millman, one of her team members. Leasing, industrial vacancies are down to 5.19%. It was 5.53 a year ago. Minor dip. 22 leasing was strong, with many local companies expanding. Average rents of Class A buildings are now at $750 a foot, triple net. $750, big number, with 3 to sometimes 4% annual escalators. Our market has always been capped pretty much at 3%.
Yep.
I think that's off
Across the
as
board.
well.
Yep, across the board.
We're seeing 3.5s and 4s, and tenants are agreeing to it. So Class B properties, older, lower, 650 triple net, also in the same 3 to 4% annual escalators. Class C, mid-4 range, mid-4s, and you're seeing more of those just with the 3% annual bumps. So takeaways for 23, look for sales and leasing volumes to reduce because of the interest rates, inflation, the threat of recession. But with volume going down, I see the rates remaining steady as long as supply doesn't increase. I mean, if we have a lot more closures, retractions, a lot more property that comes on the market, there's just not a lot of property on the market right now. If the recession is worse than expected, you could see those rates drop. Otherwise, I think it's going to be steady. No dips, no increases, just steady. So we have just very little product on the market. People call, I need 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. there might be one or two options to look at in the market. And it doesn't get any better when we go out of the market. I mean, I looked for a client for a 75,000 foot use up in Lehigh Valley. Pricing up there, at least $1 more per square foot. So as high as we are, some of our markets, Lancaster, are higher.
Yeah.
Lehigh Valley are higher.
Yeah.
So that's an overview of industrial. So are these documents marked classified, top secret? Where'd you get those?
I wrote them last night.
Okay,
So-
all right, you did good.
So getting into the office market overall. So one of the things with the office market in general since COVID is everybody's been concerned, is it gonna mean less office space? Is it gonna be companies that, continually downsizing? When are people gonna come back to work? So, overall, office market is perfectly fine in Berks County. I can't say that for other markets, but Berks County was not an overbuilt market. So, and that has a little bit to do with rental rates as well. Obviously, with where debt is today, and just debt overall, and operating costs, and our rental rates not increasing, it's hard to build new buildings in the Berks County market and be competitive. So, as far as our overall vacancy rates in Berks County for Class A, Class B product, we're somewhere in the 8.5% to 8.6% as a blended average, which is below where things were, 2019, 2020, going into 21. So we've seen positive absorption over the course of last 12, 24 months. Now this does remove quite a bit of the older obsolete space. What it does include though is the quite a bit of space that was put on the market on a sublease basis with Tower Health. So it does take that into consideration, but not some of the older obsolete buildings. Now rental rates, so for industrial, I think it may be a little bit easier to put your finger on what those numbers are. For office, it's difficult because we have concessions, we have tenant improvements, we have improvements that the landlords make, or I'm sorry, the tenant's making in addition to what the landlord's making. So for us to back into what those rates are, it's sometimes difficult. So on the landlord side, we care about what those net effective numbers are. On the tenant side, we care about what the total liability looks like. So we've tried to steer away from giving exact numbers on what the ranges look like. Because if we're at a $23 a square foot rate in the office, is that on a triple net basis? Is that on a full service basis? So there's so many factors going into it that we're starting to try not to publish those numbers because there's so much more information that goes into it. And when you put a number out there, now all of a sudden, landlords or tenants are saying, well, this is what you're saying the market's at. Why are we $3 a square foot higher or $2 a square foot lower? And that's where you got to bring in, all those variables that I just mentioned. So with that being said, concessions on there, the concessions aren't being offered like they used to. Free rent being one of those concessions. I mean, maybe it's 30 days, maybe it's 60 days of free rent, but you're still paying your operating costs. So it's really just getting creative on some of these deals, but the concessions are not nearly as thrown out there like they were, 3-4 years ago prior to COVID or just after COVID. Obviously, this is term of lease goes into play here, credit of tenants, so on and so forth. Right now, and I think this is across the board, but one of our big concerns are operating costs, right? So we've had a pretty mild winter up to this point, yet our operating costs are still, I don't know if this is wood. Our operating costs are up double digits. I mean, and that's across the board. So obviously that, takes into consideration the cost of goods, cost of labor, lead times, which pushes things out, which makes, increases costs. And of course, debt. I mean, we got to take that into consideration. I mean, every single thing we do is what the debt looks like. So with debt becoming more expensive, obviously, rental rates are going to have to increase to some extent. They have to. So for you to build a new building today versus even 12 months ago, and I'm not even talking 24 months ago, 6 to 12 months ago, it's increased. The rates, which we all know have increased substantially, that you can't build a building today and lease it out at 10, 12, 14 bucks a square foot. Just to cover your debt, you need to be at $16, $18 a square foot. So it's going to be, that's the only part that's going to be interesting on the office side going into 23, is to understand where things are going to be at and what we need to do with these rental rates. The only people that are going to stay competitive are the ones that have low basis on their buildings. They're the ones that can afford to drop their rate a little bit lower to be competitive to the rest of the market. Whereas anybody that's purchasing a building today or building a building today, they need to hit a certain number just to cover their debt. And that if I were going to put anything that I'm concerned about, that's probably the item that I'm most concerned about. But as far as our activity, this is one of the I think the shining parts of the office market. We have very, very good activity. We've had good activity throughout 22, but even going into just this first part of the year, we've still continued with good activity. Berks County has been, more of that 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 square foot tenant market. So those larger users, the 10, the 15s, 20s, and so and up, Berks is just not a market. They're out there. They're not turning around as much as these 2,000 to 3,000 square foot users. And the other positive item are the sectors, right? So in the past, it's been medical, it's been finance, has been the primary drivers for the Berks County market. Now we're very diversified. So we have tech users that are out in the market, still finance, still medical, lots of back office user, anybody that's associated with the construction industry, engineers, architects, law firms, they're all, that's the kind of activity we're having right now, which is great. It's not concentrated on just, the finance or the medical market. On the medical side, we are seeing huge growth from third-party operators and other health systems, not just the local ones. So in the years past, what we would talk about is, Tower Health is expanding, which we all know, they've with some of the sublease space out there, they expanded quite a bit. Penn State, some of the local health systems are the ones that we're expanding. Now we have third-party operators that are coming in and other health systems that are making an impact on the market. So that's something that's very different than years past. As far as our absorption, one other item is users are coming in from outside the market, right? So again, in years past, Berks County was, I don't want to say regurgitating, but you're using a lot of the same users are playing musical chairs within the market. Now we're seeing quite a bit of those users from outside the market come in, which is great for why our vacancy rates obviously are down. Our net absorption, we've had positive absorption over the past couple of years. And this is one of the other reasons we're starting to slightly see our rental rates increase across the board. So whether that's Class A, Class B product, downtown, suburban.
I just want to interject. That's the same on the industrial. A lot of people, we used to trade users would go across the street.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing a lot more people from the Philly, Lehigh Valley market coming this way.
Yeah.
They're looking for the value that we offer.
Yeah.
Plus we have available labor.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I'm sorry.
No, please. That's now you just took my last page. So again, activity on the office side remains strong. So we're I don't want to be overly optimistic, but on our office side, especially on the smaller end, I think it's going to be a positive 23. I'm going to touch a little bit on the retail. Obviously, I'll answer any questions that there may be on the office. Actually, I'll answer them now.
Just before you jump into retail, someone had asked, why do you think activity is still strong when offices are going hybrid, or when there's also changes happening in the office?
That's a great question. And if you would have asked me at I don't even know if I want to say the beginning of 22, where I thought things, actually, I'm pretty sure we did a market report and talked about that we're concerned with people going hybrid. I honestly don't know. I wish I had a clear answer on why the activity is strong, why users are finally coming back. My personal opinion, it's just the national users, I think, are downsizing. I think you're seeing them reducing some of their footprints, but a lot of the local operators, I think it was a wait and see game, right? And it, from 21, the activity was slow in 21, but going into 22, it just, people were finally coming out of the woodwork. So like, we need to make decisions. We need to run our businesses, and people are coming back to work. I mean, you still see on the news, and there's some of the larger companies are trying to push their employees to come back. I mean, we've been full staff back at the office. Well, right after we were allowed to, but I think a lot of companies, they want their folks back at the office. A lot of those people want to be back at the office because there's something about the work, working at home, although we all think you can still be efficient, you still can get your stuff done, but there's a good separation from work and home. So having somewhere to go, having somewhere to decompress after you're done work, I think is important. So I think people want to get back to the office.
I've heard that a lot of companies were saying you need to start coming back 1 or 2 days a week, and that's got to be all of a sudden 3 days a week.
Yeah.
They're trying to get their mojo back by getting everybody together.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, and I think we're starting to see it. I mean, you can drive around some of the parking lots in Berks County, some of the office campuses. You're going to see some of the larger users, and I don't want to mention anybody, just drive around and take a look. Some of the larger users, their parking lots are still a little empty, but then you go into a lot of these multi-tenant, smaller suite office buildings, and the parking lots are packed. So I think it comes down to the smaller users that we're seeing come back to work. So I think everybody's coming back to work, but I think more so on the smaller side. So maybe that's attributable to why activity is strong. So any other questions? No? Okay. So the retail side, we track quite a bit of the retail that's going on in the market. The strongest activity, I should say, is concentrated around those single tenant, quick serve QSRs, quick serve restaurants. Automotive related retail is, in my opinion, booming right now. So if you're those, the Mavis tires, which you've seen pop up all over the county, repair and maintenance facilities, car washes. I mean, everywhere you go, you see new car washes popping up. So that, in our opinion, the retail side, there's been a lot of concentration on that type of product. And I think it's because of the growth in the residential market. I mean, there's quite a bit. One of the things that Berks County lacked, at least in my opinion, was a lot of the new residential communities that were popping up. You had a few of them. You had the same home builders locally that were doing some developments. But now there's still so many developments going on, houses that are being built all over the place. I don't know if they're all selling given the rates, but it sure seems like they're building them fast. So, but because of that, these retailers are getting closer to the rooftops, getting closer to their customer base. And it also goes into the healthcare side. So you have these health systems that used to be primarily located in office parks, business parks. Now, the urgent cares have always went retail, but you have a lot of the health systems that are starting to open up in the retail locations. And again, it gets back to, they want to get closer to their patient base, and they want to get close to the rooftop. So they're not the large 10, 15, 20,000 square foot deals, but they're still those, like I mentioned earlier, those 3, 5, 7,000 square foot deals, or 3 to 5,000 square foot deals that are popping up in these retail sites. So I think that's also part of, the growth in the retail. I don't hold the same sentiment on the malls or some of those larger boxes, but I think on the smaller retail side, the single dual tenants, activity is strong, and I think it's going to continue to be strong. I think that's all I want to go over with the retail. So any questions on that?
Not on retail. We have another question for office.
Go for it.
Do you see any building renovations?
So yes, quite a bit of building renovations. Costs are obviously the biggest concern right now. Construction costs. So if there's any construction guys on the call or afterwards, feel free to ask some questions or even provide some feedback. But construction costs are huge right now. So because of that, it's making these deals with high tenant improvements, or deals with quite a bit of work that needs to be done, difficult to make, right? That's where landlords can only afford to provide a certain amount of tenant improvement dollars, and then the tenant has to either chip in a portion or pay for it as amortized into the deal. So, but there are a ton of tenant improvements going on across the board. It's just, you're not going in anymore and knocking down all the walls. What you're doing is you're going in and trying to figure out, what can I keep? What can stay existing? I want to do as little improvements as possible, but make the space for our, for us, for our company. Office has always been, one of those tricky items. Is you build out a space specifically for a user, they do a 5-year lease, they vacate, a new user comes in and wants to tear it all out and start over. Well, now it just, the economics don't work. So what we're doing is trying to figure out how to maintain as much of the existing conditions as possible, so that we're competitive with the deals and we can get them across the finish line. So, sorry, that was long-winded.
So we really didn't talk about land too much, but land sites for these QSRs and other retailers, or land to build a 50,000 foot industrial building.
Yeah.
People look for those options still, even with financing as it is. There's really no options out there. There are very few options for entitled lots.
Sure. Yeah, agreed.
All the lots at the airport are under contract or built on.
Yeah.
For industrial. There's not that many options right now, and the entitlement process is increasingly frustrating. It's a grueling process, filled with lawyers and engineers, and the townships, boroughs, municipalities can be very, very difficult, and in 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
1 to 2 years anyhow.
Yeah.
Some of it may be easier if they just tell you no at the start, and save your money, go somewhere else.
Yeah. That's a perfect,
So,
if I could give advice to any township or any municipality, if you don't want the development, just tell the developers on the front end. They're big boys. They're okay with, so we want to work, developers and whoever it is wants to work with municipalities that want to see growth within the municipality. So the easiest thing you could do is, when a developer approaches you, which a lot of them like to have, workshop meetings on the front end, just to take the temperature. They're not there to get inside information or anything else. They're there to sit down and hear you. Like, if you say, we are not interested in development, or we don't want to see this area develop, tell them then. Don't wait, down the process until everybody shows up at the meetings and say, you know what, I never wanted that anyway. I would let them know in the beginning, because you have very pro-development municipalities, and that's where the developers want to work. And then you have the ones that are a little bit more difficult and they don't want to see it, which it is what it is, and they understand that. So I would be upfront in the beginning, because I think it'll save everybody a lot of time, a lot of money, and more importantly, less aggravation. So speaking of land values, that's one area that, with debt getting more expensive, with rental rates not increasing, or they are increasing, but rental rates are going to be where they're at. But because the investment market is, the yields are going up. I mean, let's be frank, with the rates going up. So there's only one area that's construction costs haven't come down nearly as much as everybody was hoping. Rental rates are increasing, but not at the pace that debt's increasing, and debt's expensive. So at the end of the day, there's only one place that you're going to start seeing a reduction, and that's on the land values and some of the sale building values. So it's got to come from somewhere. So if debt does not flatten out, or it keeps going up, I think that's where we're going to start seeing, the costs come down. It has to come from somewhere. So,
all right. Roger that.
That's it.
Anyone
Any
else
questions?
has any other questions?
We appreciate everybody joining in today, and hope this information helped a little bit.
I only want to add one thing for some of the brokers at NAI. So there's been quite a bit of sales that have taken place in 2022. So I just want to congratulate Brian McCann on the sale of 150 Love Road in Flying Hills. Kyle McKechnie sold 131 West Airport Road in Lancaster. John Bacino, the sale of the Seakeeper campus in Moton. Pat Zerby just closed on 1270 Broadcasting Road in Wyomissing, and Kevin Wolf and the sale of the YMCA in Pottstown. If you have any questions on any of those deals, or any comps or anything else, feel free to give the respective brokers a call, or someone at NAI a
Call our
call.
guys with the deals.
Yeah.
We love to make deals.
And now that is all I have.
All right,
One-
last
one
question. You got one more question?
Did you talk about investment sales activity for office buildings, any recent sales or idea of cap rates?
Yeah, so I that's, so on the single, so let's talk, so medical, I'm gonna say medical office, right? So the medical single tenant cap rates have been pretty strong, right? They've, we sold a bunch of our product in early 22 and we were in that, 5.75, 6.25 range. I think that same product is probably, I may get shot here, but that same product is probably at that, 6.5, 6.75, maybe even a little bit more. I think where you're seeing the high cap rate deals are the multi-tenanted, the maybe not as much credit on some of the tenants, deals that have a lot of management intensive. I think those types of deals you're gonna be at 9+ cap rate wise, because I mean, with debt where it's at, and we got to keep beating on that, with debt where it's at, people and on the headaches that come with those types of property, and I mean, I think that's where those cap rates are going to end up trading at. So there's still plenty of people that think that those rates are in that 7 and 7.25, but I see that product sitting there for quite some time. So I hope I'm wrong.
Okay, Eagles by 7. What say you?
My opinion, Eagles by 21.
All right, we'll get the fight song going.
All right.
Thanks everyone for
Yeah.
joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.